What's up, guys? Welcome to Prepper Talk Radio, Radio for the Ready Minded, the podcast for the prepared, with your hosts, Scott, Shane, and yours truly, Paris Clough. Happy to be here. Excited to be here. We're going to talk about some exciting things today. We're going to talk about the incoming New World Order potentially and what's happening. Not potentially, it's coming. It's just a matter of when and not if. But before we do, let's jump into a couple of items of business here really quickly. First, if you're live with us tonight, welcome. And we'd love to have you hit the thumbs up button. If you're on YouTube, hit that. If I think on Facebook, you can like it as well, and maybe that helps the algorithm push it out a little bit more. But we would appreciate that. Also, if you're listening later, make sure that you come back and watch as well, because the more time we get on our YouTube channel, the better we can move that forward as well. But also make sure you go to our website, preppertalkradio.com. Look up our resources there. We have a great set of resources. We also have some really cool things that you can check out at preppertalkradio.com/good life. And if you want to get healthy, stay healthy, and do it in an affordable way, then that is where you need to go and check it out. We're going to have a lot of, if the New World Order has their way with us, we're going to need to be healthy, and we're going to need to be able to have products that we can afford, because with the reset that they're doing, everything could be up for grabs. So make sure you do that. Also, check out our friends at survivalfrog.com, use code PrepperTalk10, PrepperTalk10 at checkout to get 10% off. Scott and Shane, we got a packed episode potentially tonight, right? So let's, how you guys feeling? How you guys doing?
Good. We're definitely going to have a New World Order banner underneath this video, like everyone else, right?
Oh man, it's as a former Marvel movie buff, it is inevitable at this point, right? We know we're in the midst of a transition of power change from the global order that has been primarily run by European Union, Britain, and anyways, but it's in a shift, and it's going to go awry, and I'm not excited for tonight's episode. Like, there's so much like emotion, no fear, but just like, oh, icky, disgusting, ungodly, unholy, just because that's what it is. And it's the celebration of godlessness is what the New World Order is, right? We're better than God. We know better. So we're going to rule the world. That's where it's going. So we're going to, grab your popcorn, get your fingers ready to go flying in the group chat. But it's going to be interesting tonight. I don't even know where it's going to go.
One thing I've seen a lot, and I want everybody to know, hands down, I agree 100% with this. There's the old, we've even said it on this channel several times. Jesus wins in the end. Mm-hmm. However, between now and then, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to wonder if Jesus is going to really win. And that's going to be culminated. That's going to be part of the plan of the New World Order and those globalists and those demonic people that are living on this earth that want to deceive and thwart and do all kinds of stuff to us. And they're going to create false raptures. They're going to create false Christs. We know this. This is in the book. This is in the book of Revelation. There's going to be false messiahs. There's going to be false prophets. There's going to be false Christs, antichrists. There's going to be all these things that are come forth. And it even says very clearly in the New Testament that even the very elect could be deceived. And that means that we got to be on our game. Like, yeah, we can't just flippantly say, well, Jesus is going to win. No, we don't have to worry. No, there will come a time, and it's also prophesied that the devil and his kingdom will have dominion over every nation, every kindred, every tongue, every people, land, sea, everything. The devil will have a minute, according to God's time. A day is 1,000 years to God. So, or a day of God's is 1,000 years to us. So for a minute or two, maybe an hour, who knows, the devil and his kingdom will have control and power. And we need to be so discerning and so prepared and ready for that hour or however long it's going to be in God's time, but it might be 10, 20, 30, who knows how long for in our days. But there's going to be a time where we're going to have to deal with that. And that's going to be something that I think that I would like to say, guys, let's remember that as we're discussing what's happening here today. And absolutely 100%, we stay right with Christ. We stay right with Father in heaven. We're going to be guided, directed, and we're going to be led to the places where we're going to be able to stay and be safe. However, we can't just flippantly just throw it out there like, hey, we're going to be fine because we believe. No, we still need to be on our game at like 100%. So I just want to kind of start with that.
Well, I think that's perfect intro, because if you're not aware, you can't be prepared, right? We have to know how the adversary works in order to prepare ourselves to take the steps we need to insulate ourselves from that. And that's why, I think a lot of people think, preppers are doom and gloomers. Well, and maybe you could say that's true, but it's based on truth. It's based on facts, and it's not. Of course, there might be some conjecture in there too, right? But again, if you don't know what's coming, you're not going to be able to see it. And I mean, if you don't want to see it, that's fine. Just keep your distance, right? Exactly. Don't watch the show. Right? We're probably not going to be good friends, right?
Which one of us is going to be the blind monkey? Which one's going to be I'll cover my ears.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the dumb one?
Me. I'll do this maybe.
Yeah.
I'm happy to shut up. I'm perfectly happy to be quiet from this point on. I don't need to talk, right?
Well, it's funny too, because like I get this conversation. I mean, I've been a lifelong prepper, like, because it just makes sense to be prepared for whatever could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, it's the daily doses of reality: job loss, long-term illness, unemployment, disability, like those types of things, economic shifts. Yeah. And now we're like, I'm reading the scriptures and I'm like, this is more accurate than the weather forecast, right? It's like, and in those days there shall be wars and rumors of wars, and nation shall rise against nation. And I'm like, yeah, let's see that. Yeah, that's check. I'm checking all the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're told to watch for the signs in the heavens. And I'm like, those are all getting fulfilled. I'm like, wow. So it's like, we are front row to what prophets from every dispensation have seen and said, wow. They've looked at our generation and gone, wow.
Yeah.
They've marveled, because all these things are culminating in our lifetime. Yeah. And am I still prepping for the practical every day? Absolutely. That first, right? But awareness is a half of prepping that a lot of people just kind of glaze past, and they either go into the fear-mongering side or they go into the overgearing side. And then there's the people like our group here that are listening and watching right now. They're like, okay, I've got to be aware. We want to be awake. We want to be cognizant of what's going on and what we can do to better protect ourselves, our family, our friends, our loved ones, right? Our communities. And that's why, like, our monikers for God, family, and community, right? Because we've got to help each other. We've got to sign, or not to sign, to sing the warning cry. Like, we've got to help people just be aware, because if you're aware of it, like Shane said, like, you can prepare for it. You can defend against it, or at least a little bit.
Yeah. And the one thing that kind of kicked this off for me, and when I texted you guys, hey, we need to talk about this next week, is, obviously there was just the World Economic Forum there at Davos this last week, and the one thing that just kept being I saw repeated over and over again, even on the mainstream media channels, kind of blew me away, is what Mark Carney, who's the whatever his title is there, Prime Minister of Canada, saying that they now have a relationship with China. And his quote was, "This sets us up well for the new world order." Like, who speaks like that? Who talks like that? And and just see it over and over again. And of course, then you'll see, like you say, at the bottom of this video, you'll see oh, this banner that's going to pop up, and I'll read it to you. You know, of course, it takes you over to Wikipedia, right? The New World Order is a term often used in conspiracy theories, which speculate about the secretly emerging totalitarian world government. But like you're saying, Scott, you know, the globalism is failing or has failed, and that was a bit of a topic at Davos this last week as well about globalism. But then, and I agree. I think I do agree that's never going to work that way until maybe at the very end after this next plan fails. Which, Scott, if you want to put up that map that we were talking about, this seems to be the plan, and this has been around for almost 100 years now. Well, 90 plus years, somewhere around there. Even further back, you know, we've talked about this Club of Rome map. It's also part of the Agenda 2030. It's also a former Tech Native America map. They all kind of match. And if you look at it closely, and if you put up the Tech Native map, it actually matches a little closer because it takes in Mexico, Cuba, Venezuela, up all the way to Greenland. And that's what Trump's working on. You know, the one I sent you there, Scott?
Yeah, I'm trying to change the screen. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know how it works, so
what's interesting is for those of you who are watching, and at 12 minutes and 45 seconds ish or so, you'll see that the one area that is, you know, United States, which and Canada, North America, basically, but it also jumps into the Arctic and Greenland. And so when you see and hear what we're trying to do to capture Greenland right now, it's like, wait a minute, they're actually setting this thing up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. I don't know if you want to go back to that other map, Scott, but that one you're sharing is pretty cool too. But see, on number one, you see United States, Alaska, Canada, and then, you know, obviously whatever islands those are north of Greenland, and those are probably also Canada.
Yeah.
But that's the 10 kingdoms that the New World Order is hoping to establish, and it coincides with the 10 kings in the Book of Revelation, honestly. And so it's pretty wild to think about that. I mean, when you another thing that you hear regularly is, you know, Trump just came out and recently said, you know, we have a different our monetary system is very old, decades old, and needs to be updated. And the monetary system needs to be updated on something that's much faster. It takes 2 or 3 days to settle transactions. It should be instant. It should be faster. And we need to update our monetary system, and we're going to do that on the back of the blockchain so that it's much faster. So an economic reset is definitely happening. Just in the last couple of years, and it's kind of like, well, that was last year's news. Well, it's still we still need to be aware of it. They've created all of the Abrahamic churches got together and created a religious organization that will be potentially a one world religion. And the beginnings of it, for sure, is like when I saw what they did, I was like, oh, that looks like the one world religion starting. And then we actually even talked about this guy on our podcast a couple times ago. Maybe there's a guy who was part of the Church of Satan, and he was one of the leading guys out of South Africa, and he converted to Christianity. And he said that they had plans at their big world Luciferian convention, whatever it was, that he said their plans were to have a one world religion by 2027. And then somebody asked him, well, how do they expect to enforce that? And he says, oh, we'll have they're supposed to have, the plans are, and God can thwart their plans on a regular basis. And he has, by the way. So again, another plug for God does win in the end. But their plans are to have a one world economy or one world kind of economic situation by then. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean we'll all have the same, you know, go to the grocery? I'll take the same bill to the grocery store the guy in Europe does. I don't know. What I do know is that there's going to be some at least fundamental backbone of an economy that the whole world will run on. All of us, like we might have still dollar bills, and Europe might still have euros, but it's all run on the backbone of this XR, whatever, Bitcoin,
something digital,
blockchain, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And,
well, that's something
the world is on that. And so they have the illusion to us that we're each individually, you know, working with our own currencies, but the reality is it's all one world currency. So there's with China, basically the beta program for their control of digital currency plus digital credit score plus digital everything they're doing over there. That's a
ID.
huge push towards what they're going to try to do. I mean, the United Kingdom even just came out. I think they fought back against it though, but they even came out and said you're not going to be able to work unless you have this ID, this
Digital
chip
ID.
or something. So you guys, it's all out there, and they're doing it. They'll do a little bit in the first quarter of 2023, and they'll do a little bit in the second quarter of 2024, and they'll do a little bit in the third quarter of 2025, and they'll do a little bit in the fourth quarter of 2026. And before we know it, we're like, oh yeah, that was a couple of years ago. It's nothing. It's died down. Nothing to hear. Nothing to see. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we were just preparing it for the next year to do the final blow, and we're going to put this all together now in one big, and the final nail on the coffin is ready, and here it goes, bam. You know what I mean?
Well, that's one thing that Larry Fink was talking about also at Davos this last week, is about tokenization, digitization, and blockchain. Everything has got to be digitized and tokenized, and that makes it simple to create this one world. I don't know if you want to call it currency yet, but just a payment system, which I guess that would be a currency. But yeah, like you're saying, Paris, I agree that we'll probably have our own currencies, especially if gold and silver, we see what they're doing. They're going to be the premium. Not to take us off track.
What's interesting though is like, okay, we look at China, they're stockpiling. We look at BRICS nations, they're pushing for a partially backed by gold currency to fight against the US petrodollar, right? But what's interesting is whether, and I was laughing earlier because you said XR and then stopped. XRP, Ripple, they're vying to be the new backbone, exchange gateway for all the future money, right? The digital economy, and they're like, we're primed, we're ready to go. We've already gone through the Senate, we've already gone through Congress, we've already gone through all the legal battles to be able to prime ourselves, position ourselves, blah blah blah. The reality is, whether it's that or something else, like the old system, it takes too long, and they need a new system that's decentralized, air quotes, from the Fed banks, the Rothschild banking conglomerate, so it can be controlled actually by a government. And so the Rothschilds, the EU, Britain, they're all fighting against it, because right now they have massive leverage and control over the current banking conglomerates, the systems, Bank of London, like it's all connected. Like if you even spend a little bit of time rabbit holing that one, you'll see how interconnected all of it is. But with Trump disrupting Venezuela and the oil there and all the assets and resources there, like, and now that he's going after all the narco stuff, like that's dismantling the largest portion of funds that comes into the United Kingdom. Who backs the entire global supply chain for drug running? It's the Crown.
Is it London?
It's the Crown.
Well, there's the what's it
has been.
I was going to say there's the three eyes, the Lloyd. The London is the economic center.
Okay.
Washington D.C. is the I don't know if it's the Lloyd's of London, but I know it's for sure London is the economic center for the what's it called? The hand, the eyes. I can't remember. The five eyes, something like that. Anyways, it's Washington D.C. is the military. London is the deal, and then something else. So yeah, and Rome is the religious something or another. So those are the three major things to be watching. Yeah, that's interesting that the Crown has that control. Wow.
Right, and it has since pre-World War II. Right, the whole global order that we've been working with has been those three branches through the same tree of Britain backed by Rome. And it's been 80 years plus of America being the stick to that beast, right? We're the whipping stick to make sure everyone does what
is the enforcement.
Yeah, we're the enforcement. Mm-hmm. The mercantile Pax America is what they've called it. And Trump is like, we're done. We're done. He's like, and that's what's interesting to me is, love him or hate him, I mostly hate him. He is polarizing the power groups. and he is testing them on every front possible, primarily economically, but he's testing them militarily. Like, okay, fine, we're going to back out. Like, we've backed out of so many alliances. Like, we're
not out of
pulling
the WHO.
funds out of NATO. We're pulling funds out of the UN. We're pulling out of the World Economic Forum. Like, he's pulling us out of all these different things that the establishment's pushed us into for the last 80 years, so that he can force renegotiation, force change. And that's what's interesting to me to watch, because there's economic coercion. There's who knows if we're ever going to see the actual list of what happened with Epstein. But he's exposing all the liabilities of the current global organization, the global order, and pushing hard for this. I just
want to help clarify something too, because somebody might be listening and say, well, how does this, I've heard about the Illuminati. I've heard about the Jesuits. I've heard about all these orders that are, how do those all play into this? Well, in the New Testament, we read that one of the things that Christ kind of defends himself against this idiot Sanhedrin is because they're like, you must be the devil coming here and doing all this work. And he's like, a house divided against itself will fall. Like, my house is not going to fall. And so one of the things that you might think about is that over the centuries, if you've followed, call it the book of Revelation calls it Mystery Babylon. Within that head of Mystery Babylon, you'll find the Illuminists, you'll find the Jesuits, you'll find all of the different secret organizations, the globalists. I call it, if you're a John Wick fan, it's the High Table, it's whatever it is that's running the world, the secret organization that's running the world, the 13 families that we all know about that run the Illuminati. Anyways, it's the Rothschilds, it's Rockefeller, it's all those dudes, Oppenheimer, it's all those dudes, right? The guys who started the Fed, Federal Reserve, etc. So what's happening is that you have, for example, we don't have enough time in this episode to get into all the details, and not that I know them anyways. But one of the things I think that we can really see here is happening is that for a long time, they were supposed to have some things done in America. The Illuminists failed. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. And so the Chinese are like, well, we're going to take over then. And then Russia's like, no, we're going to take over then, because nobody's doing what they're supposed to. So we're just going to go for it. And we're going to take it. We're going to take over. We're going to do it ourselves. So what I think is happening, this is the Gospel of Paris Clough. This is the secret combination description of according to Paris, right? What I think is happening is Trump's coming in and saying, look, dudes, we're going to get it done right this time. Come home, come back to the central theme here, and stop messing around. Stop trying to do it yourself. Putin, stop trying to do it yourself. Zelensky, stop trying to do it yourself. Xi, whatever. And Xi Jinping, what's his name? Is that his name?
Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping. And North Korea is like just the crazy stepchild of all this potentially. But I think that there's going to be, Britain, UK, they were trying to run the deal for a while. I mean, when turn of the century, turn of the millennium, we hear 43, 42, I can't remember which one. It was senior or junior Bush. They're talking about, we're going to bring in the new world order. I mean, we've been talking about this new world order thing for 20. They've been talking about it publicly for 30 or 40 years, but they've had it in the wings for centuries, I'm sure. The point is that there was a lot of division. The house was divided. The devil's kingdom was divided. They were all trying to vie for that top seat. They were all fighting for it. They're trying to kill each other, and they're backbiting and infighting and all that stuff. Now, I think what's happening is like, look, we got this infrastructure set here. Everybody, let's get back on the same page, and let's push this new world order forward. I believe that's what's happening in the Davos. I believe that's what's happening in the World Economic Forums. That's what's happening in the G7s, the summits, all the things that are happening now, and it's all coming together. And especially since, like, one of the key things to me was Trump's going for Greenland. That's on the map for number one. You know what I mean? Like, they're bringing it home, dude. That's what I'm thinking. So,
and I totally agree with you there.
Your perspective, but that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it really seems like, the country is divided into three, I don't want to call them kingdoms, but Russia and those who are with Russia, China, those who are with China, and the U.S. and those who are with U.S. And but I do think you're right that Trump is the one who's stepping up right now and saying, okay, let's speed this up, right? Let's step this up, and then if you kind of compare this to Book of Revelations, and then I'm not the scriptorian like you, Paris, but where these three will eventually war against themselves, right? And obviously they have been, and they always will, I think, until the very end. But I think this is part of Agenda 2030 as well. This is the 10 kingdoms are part of the Agenda 2030 as well. So I think, and we've talked about this in the past as well, that their agenda needs to be sped up. They are speeding up their agenda. They've had to really step it up, and I think we see that very easily over the past 5-6 years, that the agenda is really speeding forward, and it's of course it's being disguised as nationalism. We're trying to at least Trump is seemingly trying to unite the U.S. and do the Monroe Doctrine or the Donroe Doctrine, right, of taking control and protecting the U.S. interest. And we need Venezuela, we need Cuba, we need Greenland in order to do that, because we're looking out for ourselves. So he's playing towards the Americans, to the population. So hey, we need to look out for our interest, and that's where we're doing this. But that's kind of a disguise for
another disguise.
Not globalism, but toward this agenda 2030 or so.
So I think another disguise, Shane, and this is something we've alluded to over the last couple of episodes, another disguise is this idea that what if our world gets visited by another aliens or another intelligent being?
That's on the agenda. Yeah.
We need to have when they come down and say, take me to your leader, we need to have a leader we can take them to. Because right now we don't have one of those leaders. And so every time they have this new, whether there's Atlas AI or whether it's some other, Project Bluebeam, quite frankly, that they put in the sky, oh, this was a UFO, and all these other things they're putting out there right now, just kind of slowly conditioning us and programming us to believe that, wait a minute, these aliens are sounding more and more real every report they make. And so what if we need to have a one world government so that we can take these aliens to our leader and we can be united against the other worlds that are out there. And that to me is another, I mean, yeah, some of you listening are like, Paris, you are off your rocker with that. I'm like, if I am, great, but I don't think I'm too far off. And you might start seeing more and more over the next couple of months and weeks and probably even year. I think we're going to see some of that come to fruition, because they're going to push for that to have a one world government. And in order to have a one world government, we need to have a one world economy, and we need to have one world religion, and we need to all organize under one head. And who's going to run that thing? Well, there's a couple people vying for it.
Yeah, including Trump. That's kind of the obvious candidate right now, right? He's really stepping up to take that role, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. That's what it looks like to me.
And so right now we have just under 3 years left in Trump's term, right? Which gives him 3 years. So it's 2026, so 2026, 27, 28. So in 2029, we'll see, theoretically, and I say theoretically very loosely, a new president, right? But there's been political talk of that was our last election,
mm-hmm.
right?
Quite a bit.
So if we're pushing towards an Agenda 2030 and a one world order, right? A new world order, a one world order, a one world religion, a one world economy, like, it's very possible that it's all completed by the end of that presidency. And for the first time in my life, I'm seeing all the dominoes lining up and ready to fall. Thinking of like the polarization of the three different groups, China, Russia, and America, seeing the polarization within each country currently, like what's going on across the world. How many countries are basically at war with themselves?
Mm-hmm.
Canada is. We don't talk about it much, but there's the government's trying to completely destroy freedom And there are quite a few people that are like, I want my freedoms back, right? We don't hear about it much, but it's going on. We think about what's going on in Iran. It's crazy. It's all out war over there. And what are we hearing? Crickets most of the time, right? What's going on in Venezuela? There's still a lot of problems in Venezuela. Cuba and Colombia are next, right? We've got a lot going on, a lot of different fronts at the same time that Donald is going against, or Monroe. How do you say it?
Doctrine, yeah.
Donroe Doctrine.
Oh, don't forget about Minnesota as well. I mean, the things that are happening there are contributing to giving, and this is part of, I think, what Trump is trying to pull off as well. I wrote some notes here. I'm trying to get it straight in my mind, but he is basically weaponizing the different federal departments, and he's consolidating power within his administration and within the executive branch. Right? He's just doing things because he wants to, and he's not being challenged by the Congress, which obviously has the power of the purse strings and so forth. Whereas he's just saying, no, I can do this by myself. And so he's setting himself up for for another presidency. He continues to say this, and people continue to say, he's going to be our last president. And he's even said sometimes you need a dictator. I believe in people when they say those types of things. That's their true intent. Right. And so we need to take those at face value and not just, he's just being cheeky, or he's just being Donald Trump. He says this stuff all the time. Well, he's kind of proven that he does what he says. Right.
And he does say stuff to kind of get the juices flowing and threaten people. And then he'll back off, which is nice. But it's that whole thing to me. It's the ebb and flow. Like, they push the boundary, they back off. They push the boundary, they back off. They push the boundary a little bit more, then they back off. And
back off a little bit less.
Back off a little bit less. And then they push the boundary a little bit more, back off a little bit. It's just that, and slowly but surely, you're like, wait a minute, they just covered and they just got a mile of my property. Like, before you know it, your next door neighbor, with that strategy, your next door neighbor's pulling up on your couch saying, hey, this is mine. I've just slowly but surely inched my way into your property and ownership. And not to mention the fact that he just sent a huge fleet, including the Abraham Lincoln, to Iran right now. Like, that's a huge message that he's leaving the waters. I don't know if that same fleet was the one that was down in Venezuela. It sounded like it was. But then he's moving that whole fleet up to Iran to kind of intimidate and do his, he said something about, hey, the last time you guys didn't do what we said, something blew up, and this time we're ready to blow up more stuff. So please don't do it. Please do what we ask so that we don't have to blow up some stuff. And it's like,
it's the art of the deal, right? He's always going to, he wants the pond. He's going to ask for the whole forest. He's going to then threaten to take the whole forest, and everyone's going to be like, oh, no, let's just give him the pond. And then he'll be like, oh, cool, I wanted the pond anyways, but now I want better terms, right? That's the craziness is he's being celebrated, he's being hated. But if you're watching everything connect, you're going, oh, nuts. It's actually happening.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, I don't even know how to get back into my notes at this point and go through other stuff, but we are in a financial death spiral, according to Ray Dalio. Most of the world is in a financial death spiral. Russia was pulled off of what was it, the SNAP processing, the international money processing system.
Is
it called SNAP?
No, it's called
SNAP for people that have no food. What's it called?
SMR, I think. This.
Well, he was, whatever it was, they got pulled off of it because of the whole issue between them and Ukraine, right? Well, now fast forward, they're still not able to do everything, realizing how much control the rest of the world has. So they've pushed all the BRICS stuff. They've pushed all their own other stuff. They're building their own infrastructure, and China and the US are the two closest to having a new digital infrastructure to be able to replace the current world. the current banking system. And it's like, whoever wins, the other one is going to have to fall in line. That's the big war that we're in right now. And people don't even realize it. We're in this economic war, economic crisis, because if we don't win, guess who's going to lose big time? The United States. We're going to lose our trade power. We're going to lose resources. We're going to lose businesses. It's going to be a bloodbath. And we're in that debt spiral, because the inflation and the money printing so out of control and so fast and loose that we can't recover unless something massive changes. And controlling the new platform would be the easiest way to make it happen, because then everyone has to move to our terms, consolidate all the world debt, new system, new banking, new, like, but no one's going to want to do that.
Well, and that's the whole thing is Mike's asking here. So, what as preppers do we recommend that you do, that we do? First of all, I don't like telling people what to do. You do whatever you're going to do, because I've realized that I make very little impact on the people around me with the things that I say. With the things that I do, they make a little bit more sense. They tend to make a little more impact. And I think more specifically, I've been talking about silver for a decade or more, right? And you guys have heard my predictions, kind of wild and crazy sometimes, but I mean, look what's happening right now. And so some of the people I've basically talked to and over the years have actually come back to me saying, "Hey, you know what? That was a great call on silver. It's doing great. I'm up 4x in the last year, and they're not as intense as I am. Their portfolio doesn't take up as much of precious metals as mine does, but I think with those little wins, and continue to stick with what I believe in and where I believe things are going, and put my money where my mouth is, and that people will see that and then convince themselves, because I certainly can't, right? I do what I can do and accommodate as many people as I can, and Mike, we've talked about, most of our episodes are about what can we do. It's the same thing. It's really the same thing for anything that's going to happen, right? It's get your shelter, get your food, get your water, have gold and silver, because that's real money, and everything else is fake. Get real things. And it's just repeating and repeating, myself going into those types of things. And, and of course, Mike, you and I, we've talked about this too, is, you've done really well in the markets. I don't understand them. They make no sense to me. So I've stayed out of the markets. And I'm doing what I know. And if you have to do what you understand, what you feel comfortable with. Right. But all good things come to an end, and, gold and silver will come to an end as well. It's just, what are you going to do with them in the meantime? What do you need to do? What's your goals? And what are your plans to get out and buy land, and to get your garden going, and to, get out of the system, and to retire. And congratulations again, Mike. That's awesome. So we can go deeper into that if you want more specifics, but it's just kind of the same thing you do to prepare for any disaster.
Let me piggyback on that for a second.
Yeah.
So why do we prep? We prep so we can have peace, right? We prep so that the hurdles of life don't hurt, right? So that we know how to get over them. We can get around them. We can adapt. We can improvise, right? Or don't hurt as much. And honestly, Shane, you're right. It's like, do what you're doing. If you feel angst about something, map it out. Okay, why do I feel concerned about this? What is the reality? Is this going to cause a bigger problem? Is this not as big a problem as I think? Am I panicking for no good reason? Right? Do some research, put together your plan. That's why we have so many resources on the website, so you can actually figure out what your plan is, because you know your needs, right? Identify what your needs are, identify the plans, put those plans in place, and then prep to those plans, right? When the whole world changes, it's going to be diabolical, right? But it's not going to be earth-shattering. It's going to be in ownership and in control, it's not going to be so life-changing that people think it's going to be. We're at the end of the slippery slope, and we're all falling into the breadbasket, if you will. Just make sure you have some bread to eat when you're in the basket. And that's my feeling. And number one, get right with God so that you can receive personal revelation, so you can know what you need to do, where you need to be, how to protect your family, how to help your community more than anything else. Right. Yep. That's why I'm wearing my fan shirt.
I'm a big fan.
I'm a big fan.
My garden.
You can get this on our website. It's in our merch store. But like, I want to be as joyful and as optimistic as possible as we fall into the cesspool, as we fall into the poop pile. Like, I want to have as good an attitude as possible so that I can endure well and rise and get out of there.
Yep. I want to piggyback a little bit on that, Scott and Shane, what you guys both said. I think when I first had my, so to speak, wake up moment about prepping was as I was reading the scriptures. And if you think about what's happening in the world right now, and let's just say the scriptures didn't exist. Let's say the book of Revelation didn't exist. Let's say the New Testament, Matthew 25, all the, John, all the different chapters that talk about the last days didn't exist. Let's pretend that the, other books of scriptures that many of you probably honor and respect, like the Book of Mormon or anything else. Let's just put all that, let's say none of that existed. If you were to see the world right now, you would say, you know what, there's some chaos here, but I don't really know what it's going to end up looking like. Well, one of the reasons why I prep is because I do believe in the New Testament. I believe in the Old Testament as well, because Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel and Micah, there's plenty of them in Daniel. They all talk about the last days as well. I love the Book of Mormon as well. That's one of my faves. So I reference that quite a bit, but this podcast is more generic. So the point is that it's because of my spiritual preparedness that I am now so absolutely sold and in all in on working towards my physical preparedness. And I just know that if it wasn't for the things that I learned in reading the scriptures, I wouldn't know that there's a secret organization probably, or whether or not you believe in God, you have to know that the people who are running this world believe in the devil, and they worship him and they follow him and they want to do what he, like you and I don't do that. Like some good people listening to the show, you're like, do people really do? Yes. You are a good person. So you can't fathom what other people are doing in the shadows, but I promise you, these people worship a being, and that being is Satan, and they will do everything in their power to bring to pass his plans, which is to completely overthrow all agency, all freedom, all liberty, and control everything. And just, there's some other things that I won't get into, but that's kind of the idea. If you didn't know that, you might look at what's happening in the world today and say, yeah, there's, the earth has been around for thousands of years. There's been the rise and fall of kingdoms. We've had the rise and fall of world currencies. Everything seems to work out. Everything will be fine. We don't need to worry about it. Well, that's true. As true as that is, this one, I believe personally, this again, Gospel according to Paris Clough, this one's different because this one is the last one. This one is the one where Jesus comes back and says, yeah, I'm done with all of this craziness. I'm setting up my kingdom and we're going to live in Zion. But there's going to be a cleansing, and the devil's going to fight tooth and nail until that happens. You will not see a white flag wave in the devil's kingdom. Like, he will fight to the death. He's not going to, he's going to go down fighting, and he's going to take every last one of us he can with him. So please don't, just recognize that. Just recognize that they believe that. So we should recognize, hey, if they believe that, whether we want to believe, whatever we want to believe, you have to realize what your enemy believes. And in order to fight that, you have to know how to counter that. Another thing I want to just quickly say is that if you're nervous or worried about a particular part of this whole process, I believe that if I was sitting across the couch, if we were sitting on the couch together having this conversation, and you told me, hey, I'm really worried about XYZ, I would tell you, I believe that's God telling you that's where you need to focus first. Then once you get through, once you're not worried or freaked out or panic attacked or anxiety about that, then put your vibration, put your frequency out and say, okay, what's the next thing? And then start learning and say, oh my gosh, I'm kind of nervous about this whole alien thing. Okay, well then figure out what that means for you. Why are you so nervous about it? And what can you do to protect yourself and prepare? Because when you have an anxiety about something, at least in my experience, when I have an anxiety about something, or when I'm talking with somebody who has an anxiety about something, that's because there's something in that anxiety that's the lesson that we need to learn, or that we need to prepare for, or we need to be ready for, or we need to seek out guidance and direction to work through, so that anxiety can go away or lessen to the point where it's way more manageable. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the anxiety might be caused by something in the local water, something in the processed foods, right?
That's true.
Reasonable as well.
And additionally, like this works with prepping, with anxiety, with just about anything in life. Fast for 3 days. Do a 3-day fast. Reset your body's chemistry. Get it re-honed back on what's reality. I'm not just talking about fasting from food, right? A dry fast is food and water. The water fast is you're just getting rid of the food. Fast from social media, from technology, from the news. Like fast from all the things where the anxiety presents itself. And you will gain some clarity of thought that you've missed for probably years and years. I've started doing this quarterly. So every 3 months I do a 3-day fast. And it is hard. The first one was brutal. But it has been absolutely enlightening for me. And we need to take better care of ourselves. We need to take better care of our families. We need to take better care of what we have stewardship over. And anxiety is things that are not, most of the time, it's you have not taken care of the things you need to take care of to be able to have peace, to be able to, as Mike and Shane have both chimed in the chat, be able to sleep through the storm. Right. Yep. And it is imperative, as things are shifting, as the New World Order is taking over, we need to be able to rely on God and have peace, because there's another thing happening at the end of that, right? It's not very long that it's going to be in control. Daniel says it's going to be what, 3.5 years or so.
Well, yeah, Isaiah talks about the 3.5 years of that, but then there's going to be some overlap. You got to remember that the scriptures the scriptures lay things out linearly, but the gospel and everything will play out more harmonically than linearly. If that makes sense.
Well, I'm just talking when it's fully in. Like it's going to be like stages of takeover, right? And we're gonna have some rough times. 100%.
Which actually plays right into what Field Tack just put up here. The New World Order isn't coming; it's here and been here slowly since November. He says 1963. I was not even born then, and I don't doubt it. And it might even be sooner than that, frankly, or earlier than that. But you're right. I personally, and Shane, you and I and Scott, we were talking about this before the show, that the at least the first phase, or I would call it the first phase. It's the first phase I know about, anyways, of the beast system, was when we all got social security numbers. Like the beast system, everybody's like, "Whoa, yeah, it's coming." Well, yes, another version of it's coming, but the actual system is already.
We've been living in it. Yeah,
we're already living in it. So, anyways, I didn't want to. I just wanted to mention that. You guys can go back to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I want to say, both of you, that's both great advice. And I wanted to kind of, again, piggyback on that, like continue on with that is no matter who ends up with control, whether it's Russia or China or the US, Trump, and they're all battling and warring between each other. What we're going to see is what has been shown us in the movies, Hunger Games, Elysium. We're going to see, and we're already seeing it. We're already almost there. We're not, completely taken over. We're seeing social problems, social stratification, right? We're seeing wealth concentration in the 1% and up. We're seeing corporations take over, and we're seeing, the erosion of, we'll call it the democratic process, right? We're a republic, right? But it's still a democratic process, what we have right now. And we're seeing all of that being taken away from us and eroded and changed. And that essentially is, it's Hunger Games. It's not quite Mad Max is beyond that, but that's where we're heading. And that's what we need to prepare for. Again, I hate to be the doom and gloomer in the worst case scenario, but that's what I believe is coming. And that's, I think that's biblical, as many people refer to it.
Yeah. I think another couple things. One, I shared with this before the show that I was watching a Peter Schiff podcast, or it wasn't a podcast. Sorry. Peter Schiff posted on YouTube. He said that what's happening with silver and gold right now isn't a bubble. It's not a silver and gold bubble. He says, this is the pin. Silver and gold is the pin that is going to pop the dollar bubble. And Peter Schiff, think about him however you want, but he's been pretty accurate and really close to, once things finally shake out and you go back to see what he predicted and how it actually played out, you're like, he was really darn close. It wasn't exact, but he was pretty darn close on most of it. And some of it, he was like right there. The other thing too, is that you got to remember is that in the book of Isaiah, which is one of the hardest books to understand in the Bible. And there's a reason for that. And you call me on the phone if you want to know what my thoughts are about why. But the point is that he talks about in the last days that there will be a like Egypt country that will be something that will run and rule. And America, if you think about the eagle, the snake, all the different things that we've had, the Statue of Liberty, we're actually primed. We are primed. There's other revelations too that if you want to talk to me in private, I can tell you how, and other revelations that I know why America is the modern day Egypt. But he talks about America being that, or that Egypt, whatever that likeness of Egypt is, the similar, in terms of the ancient Egypt that basically ran. I'm reading the Old Testament right now, and I just finished up all of the stuff about Moses taking the people out of Egypt and saving them from Egypt. And that whole process, God repeats things in all throughout history. And one of the things I believe that is going to repeat in a similar fashion is Joseph was sold into Egypt. Joseph rose to power in Egypt. Egypt became the world power because of the prophecy of the dream that Pharaoh had and Joseph interpreted. And they saved for 7 years. They had 7 years of plenty. And during the 7 years of famine, Egypt basically, if you wanted food, if you wanted grain, you had to go they sold their, they went to Egypt, they took all their gold, and when their gold was gone, they sold their cattle to get grain. When their cattle was gone, they sold their land. And when their land was gone, Egypt owned everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it was because of that famine. And so I'm just sharing with you that there's a likeness. It's called likeness. It's called similitudes. It's called foreshadowing. All of that is something that's going to happen. And there's going to be Egypt that will rise again in power, and God's people will need to be rescued once again from a Moses type figure that will rise up and bring people out of that. And so that's all part of, I think, in prepping for what's happening in the world, we definitely need to be aware of the temporal things that are happening. The potential for famine, the potential for natural disasters, the potential for all those things, and have food storage and preparedness that way. I also believe we need to be prepared for things like home invasions or zombies not literal zombies, but dead brain people just coming after us. And that's more where we learn our Second Amendment rights, and we're training there and talk to Shane and Todd and some other guys about that, getting that training done. But then I think the crux of all of this, the most important preps for all of this, to me, for Paris Clough, and I hope that you all are listening agree to this, is the spiritual preparedness. Being ready to receive revelation, being able to recognize evil when it's masquerading. The scriptures say that Satan is going to masquerade as an angel of light. What's an angel of light but the good? So the devil is going to masquerade as this angel of light, which means the evil is going to pretend to be good. And so if you don't know that you're being deceived because you're seeing, this looks good, everything looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the apple that the outside looks great, but as soon as you bite into it, it's like Worm City. So just be discerning. That's what I'm
Yep.
saying, is that spiritual discernment is going to be, personally, based on what I know about what I feel is coming, that spiritual discernment, that ability to have spiritual preparedness is going to trump, sorry, shouldn't have probably used that word. It's going to supersede all of the other preparedness things and skill sets. Not that those skill sets are going to go away or not be important, but you're going to see that will be the leading skill set to have moving into the future, even over and above all the other prepping skills that
and Paris, what is the most recent example we have of that you just mentioned? It's called the Board of Peace, right?
Right.
Okay, I have to pause you both.
Go.
This is okay. Watch the screen, everybody. In Daniel 7, he talks about 4 beasts. The third beast, are you guys ready for this? Is like a leopard, which had on its back wings of a fowl. What is this that you see on your screen?
That looks like the very beast he's
describing. At the United Nations building in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 4th beast coming. We talked about the one world order, the new world order, the global order that's being taken over right now. This is the symbol of the current global order. United Nations, Britain's geopolitical power, the UK's geopolitical power with the drug running and everything else that's going on, right? The next beast is the worst beast of all. The depiction that Daniel gives, it says, it is dreadful and terrible and exceedingly strong, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke into pieces and stamped the residue of the feet with its feet, right? It was the most diverse of all the beasts, and it had 10 horns. So there have been world orders, and in the existence of every world order that has ever been, there's been a power change. There's been a shift. There's been a change, and the power that was, right, became subservient to the new power.
And it actually talks about in the book of Revelations that one that is and one that will yet be and that comes out of the pit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go to Revelation, what is it, 14?
I don't remember the chapter and verse.
Revelation 17 talks about that. So guys, yeah. Daniel 7, Revelation 17, go have some fun after the show, read that and go, oh, these guys are maybe these guys are onto something. I think we are. But like, here's the deal. You don't need to panic. Everything's nuts out there. Yeah, I see in the comments, read the Book of Enoch, read the Apocrypha. There's so much good stuff that helps outline this. And the thing that I love the most is it's given me peace. And it's given me something to look forward to. I know it sounds terrible. There's another beast coming. It's worse than the rest. That's not what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to what comes after that. My Lord and Savior.
The purpose through the suffering.
There is pain is inevitable. It's how we endure it that matters. How you endure pain, how you get through the hurt locker will be all that really matters.
How you embrace the suck.
Thank you. The Marine mindset, embrace the suck, right? I'm a glutton for punishment. I have been my whole life. Apparently, if I don't learn something well enough, I'll run my head into it a few more times. But one thing that stayed true is the gospel's been true my entire life. Even when I fought against it, I couldn't change it. It's still true. Prepping, to me, is part of the gospel. I just look at Joseph. I look at Noah. It's like they endured suck. Joseph, what happened to Joseph? He was wrongfully imprisoned many times.
Yeah.
Right? Noah
sold into slavery.
Right? Noah sat in a stinky giant ark with his tiny little family and all these smelly animals for like a year. Right? Whatever we have to go through, we'll get to go through, but we won't be alone. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. This both for you two and for the audience. Like, it has been my pleasure to be part of this podcast and prior radio show and all the shenanigans we pull this entire time. But like, don't despair. There is great hope to be had.
Amen to that.
Shane, any last minute thoughts from you?
No, I think it'll be good. Thanks.
I'll reiterate what Scott had mentioned about the fact that we're going to come out of this. Okay, I've had significant spiritual experiences, and I want you to just know that if you stay close to God and you're in a position to receive from Him instructions, you might even be told, take 3 steps to the right now. And you won't know why until you do. And then a building falls and you end up, the window falls around you and you're safe. So I'm just saying that stuff's real. It's in the scriptures. It's happened before to pit the men and women who have been willing to be close enough to hear and have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. And I promise you that stuff's coming. If we dismiss it, if we think, that's crazy, that's woo-woo, that's not nonsense. If you dismiss what's coming with the whole agenda, I promise you this whole war it's a spiritual war as well as a physical war. What happens spiritually translates into a physical, and it all starts spiritually. And what we see is the consequences more often than not. What we see on this side of what I call the spiritual curtain, spiritual veil, what we see on this side is the consequences of what has happened. It's if something happens over there, then something happens over here. And again, not to get too much into it, but I promise you that if you stay close to that voice, that guiding and directing voice, which is, I believe, the Holy Spirit and Christ Himself, you will be guided and directed. So, we're excited. It is an exciting time to live. It's an exciting time to live on this earth. You have been reserved. You have been blessed to be here, to be at this part of the world. If you feel like you're worthless or you're not where you should be or who you should be, I promise you, you were sent to this earth at this time for a purpose and for a reason. Let's go find it. Let's prepare for it. Let's get ready. It's going to be scary. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but that's why they have seatbelts. And let's put those seatbelts on and let's stay ready-minded and stay focused. And we'll see. Oh, one last thing, everybody. I know this is the end. Probably should have announced it at the beginning. In the next couple of weeks, is it next week we're going to switch to Thursday nights? So next week, those of you who show up live on YouTube and Facebook, make sure you mark your calendar. We're moving to Thursday nights. Shane Scott's wife is having a baby, and there's some things in his family life that we needed to just make this call, and we're moving to Thursday nights, same time, 6:00, but it's going to be Thursday nights now instead of Wednesday nights. So please show up next Thursday in mass, spread the word, let everybody know. And we'll see you guys next Thursday night live. And for those who listen, I totally blew it. For those of you who are listening to the show, I blew it today and I didn't, or yesterday, and I didn't get the show out at the right time. But I promise I'll do my best to keep that consistency where we get the show out every Tuesday morning for the podcast listeners. So thanks, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.